Hi, this is David Hamburger here for TrueFire and the blues song Genealogy project. And today I'm going to talk about the song Key to the Highway, which I first heard about, like most people do, from the Derek and the Dominoes record, Layla, with Eric Clapton and Dwayne Allman playing electric guitar on this song. But it can be traced all the way back to the 1930s. When a harmonica player named Jazz Gillum recorded it. Gillum wasn't actually the very first person to record it, but he was the first person to play it as an 8-bar blues, which is one of the most significant things about this song to most people. And Gillum was a harmonica player, and his accompanist on the recording that he made was Big Bill Broonzy. And Broonzy played guitar on the record, and then went on shortly afterwards to record his own version of it. And the Broonzy version is the one that became very popular in its time, to the extent that most people thought of it as a Big Bill Broonzy tune. And he may have had a big hand in arranging it for the Jazz Gillum recording, who knows. But, it was so much considered Broonzy's tune that when Broonzy died and the harmonica player Little Walter made a tribute record to Big Bill Broonzy in the late 50s, he included Key to the Highway on it. Everybody just considered it like a signature tune of Big Bill Broonzy's, and he recorded it many times. But I'm going to show you some of the moves off of that Jazz Gillum record where he's basically backing up someone else as they sing and play harmonica. And so we'll go over just some of the shapes and some of the sort of moves that he does fingerstyle to make that arrangement work. And then I'll talk a little bit about a modern solo acoustic version by Clapton where he plays it in a different key but uses some of the same shapes. And we'll go over that just for a little bit too. So first, here's kind of what the Broonzy thing sounds like. And I should say, while I was trying to work this out, I called up my friend Paul Rochelle, who knows everything there is to know about country blues. I deferred him in every way on the subject, and we were talking, and I just said, it's tricky. There's the harmonica is recorded really hot on the record, and there's like some kind of like washed up bass or something going on in there too. So it's really hard to tell what's really going on with Broonzy. I said, it's hard to figure out what's going on, these scratchy old records. And Paul just sort of paused for a second and said, yeah, it sucks. And he went on to say, he, of course, has spent a lot of time trying to figure out stuff off old records. He said it's often a challenge. And that is certainly the case with the record that I was working off of. But anyway, here's kind of what it sounds like, what's going on behind the harmonica playing on the Jazz Gillum version. So here we go. 1, 2, 3, and... And that is basically the idea. So let me break it down just a little bit, sort of big picture, and then get into some very specific. So for chord voicings, this is Big Bill Broonzy's E a lot of the time. And you can think of it as just a D chord slid up. And since he's brushing up with his fingers and plucking with his thumb on the bass string, it doesn't matter that this is all open, because he's never going to go like that. So his B chord looks like this, and if you can think of it again, it's an A chord, A7 chord that's been slid up. And he kicks into it, as far as I can tell, from the scratchy record, like this. And that would make sense because this would be the third of the chord. Maybe he's holding down the whole thing. You hear that voicing a lot when people are playing in an open tuning. And so either I'm completely wrong and he is in an open tuning, which I don't think is the case right now, or that's just a voicing that he grabbed because that's the place to get the third, or because he'd heard records or watched people play where you could hear that note or done it himself and thought he wanted to get that sound in standard tuning. I have no idea. And I will freely say I have no idea. And as usual, I will say that if anybody knows more about it, please email in and say so. All information welcome here. So there's the A7. There's the B7. The A7 looks like that, just a regular A7. And he does a lot of this kind of stuff. And then he uses a regular E, and then he uses a B7 like this, open B7. And it is kind of a funny turnaround where he slides up. It's like he's taking the B7 shape and moving up a whole step, but not really playing that, just kind of grabbing those notes. Again, this is what it sounds like to me. And then back to E. And then he does this really cool turnaround. So it's kind of going into this B7 chord and then back to E. So going through it, he's using a, playing bass notes with his thumb and upstrokes with his finger. I'm guessing. It could be one of these things where it's picking with all three fingers, but it sounds like brushing. So thumb on the bass notes hitting basically quarter notes, and then on top hitting triplets. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that's the basic rhythm. So if it's something you wanted to just work on getting the groove to, hitting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then brush up with the fingers along with the thumb at the same time. So like that. And when you can get that sort of comfortable and groovy, then try to put in 2 more finger notes in between every pinch of the thumb and index finger. So and it's a cool sound. Feels very intuitive once you sort of get the hang of it, of this sort of brushing thing. And so what does happen a couple times is these kind of stumbled bass lines where at the end of a measure you pick a bass note and then land at the top of the next measure. So if you were counting, this would be on the and of 4. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and that's how you would put together this sequence of E, 2, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4. That thumb thing is kind of the most sort of rhythmically significant thing about what's going on in this arrangement. And it doesn't happen all the time, but when it does, it happens in a pretty signature way. This comes up a lot also in the music of Blind Blake, but a lot faster. So a tune like this is a good place to practice it. So really, you might think about going through the whole tune that way and just not even worrying about all the specific licks of what Brunzi's doing on top, but just trying to get chords and it's bass note and finger. And then even on the E, and then it sounds for all the world to me, so it's like basically you're coming from the A, 3 and 4 and 1. So your bass note is landing actually on the 1. The first beat of the bar is landing on this 5th string note, like that. So all the basses kind of have that, can have that stumbled quality to it. So and when you put all that together, then you end up with the arrangement with a few little extra licks on top. So one more time through the whole thing, walking into the B7, into the A, into the E, that's the gist of what's going on with the way Big Bill Broonzy does it. Now, Clapton does it in the key of E, presumably because it's a better place to sing. And no, I'm sorry, Clapton does it in the key of A. The Broonzy version is in E. Clapton's up here in A. So his one chord, his home chord, is in A, and he's taken the same shape, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A, and moved it up. So now this is an A shape. What's that? It's an A chord, and here's your root A. And then his E chord, again, he takes this B, which is, you think of as an A7 moved up, and now he's using it at the 9th fret as an E chord. And then for D, he goes to this, which, if you know this D7 chord, or even this D, to which this D7 is related, here's the bass with the thumb. He's taking this F sharp note on top, the third of the chord, putting it on the bottom. And then he does this cool thing where he brings the index finger on and off of the second string. And again, he's just keeping the bass pretty steady with the thumb a lot of the time. Sometimes he's doing something that's a little more brushy. And then frequently for an alternative one chord, Clapton will hear, which is a total Robert Johnson chord. You can think of it as part of this A7 bar chord, but you're just taking the fourth, third, and second string notes, and then playing it with all your fingers so that you can get the open string high, the high string open, and then slide it down a half step and back. So on the live version that I reference in the text of the blog, this is the move that Clapton's doing when he gets back to the one. So we'll start out here. And then that's another straight out of Robert Johnson. And everybody else at this point, but I think he's staying on top on the high string of the 5th fret, and then ring finger is grabbing the 5th fret of the D string and the 4th string, and then that line is just walking down while you keep pinching the high string. So those are some of the basic ways that Clapton gets around, but he also does this really cool turnaround. I think it comes right after he does the turnaround like this. So he's so coming from and coming back to the A. So that's basically an E lick. And back to 1. So what's going on is he's hitting the low E, then the high E, then doing a pull-off from the 7th to the 6th to the 5th of the scale, and then sliding up to the major third of E, and then playing, sort of coming back into A with this blues lick. And he drops the bass while he does that, just plays the single note lick on top. It's pretty cool. The other really cool thing Clapton does on this particular version is, at a certain point, about 2/3 of the way in, he takes this chord and does something way more modern than anything Big Bill Broonzy or Robert Johnson would have done, which is he takes this note and he slowly walks it chromatically up, so fret by fret, or half step by half step, over the course of 4 bars, while keeping the other notes going on. So he does this voicing, then this, so 9th fret, 10th fret, 9th fret, then 10th fret, 10th fret, 9th fret, 11th fret, 10th fret, 9th fret, and then he goes to this A7 chord, 12th fret, 10th fret, 12th fret. So, and that's all while keeping the groove going like this. It's pretty neat, and he also keeps singing the whole time, which is kind of impressive. So that just replaces, I guess, the first 4 bars. The highway. So from here, he's into the D chord, I guess. So that should give you like a roadmap for what's going on in both of those versions. And with the Clapton version, you can watch it. With Big Bill Brunsey, you just have to kind of pick it out from in between the scratches and the harmonica playing, and just remember the words of Paul Rochelle, and you'll be able to maintain a sense of humor about the whole thing. So that's Key to the Highway, and for TrueFire, I'm David Hamburger. Thanks for watching.